Buttons everywhere, buttons to the left, buttons to the right. Hey, gang, what happens when you don't sleep? I know you feel like warmed up death the next day. I wasn't at my best at a very important Zoom call I just had. Like, I'm not sure I was at my best. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm Russ Kane. This is The Daily Show, and this is a men's radio station where men really speak. Well, it's interesting. That's why we set it up, Howard and me, where men really speak. But now it's where 50% of men, 50% of women speak. It's a wonderful mixed audience. It's global, and I'm excited, and that's all I care about. Right, you know him. My computer's very slow today. I can only apologize. You know him. You love him, but he's going to have to drop his camera down because at the moment I've got like the top of his head. There we go. We want to see all of that magnificent, handsome features that makes George Clooney say, God, why wasn't I Neil Long?
I know. He says it all the time.
He does. When you know when he invited you to his house on Lake Como and you were there for like 6 weeks. Did you feel you were overstaying your welcome with George or not?
No, not at all. He was very courteous.
Yeah. Did you offer to like buy him an espresso or a cappuccino during that 6 weeks?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay, because he helicoptered you in from RAF Northolt to Heathrow, then took you out in his private jet, and he said, "Look, the house is yours. I'm going to be in and out. Treat it as your own." You and Indeed. Ken had a marvelous time there, didn't you? Ken loved it.
Yeah, well.
Although super. Ken did say, "Why are there so many bloody Italians?" And you went, "Ken, we're in Italy," and it came as a shock. Because Ken's not widely traveled, I'll be honest with you. Right, from Houston in Texas, where we heard this, Julie voice, morning, Ross, I haven't slept a diabolical bloody sleep. Awful. Hi, Julie, I hope you're feeling better than I am this morning. And Azadon Brown, good morning, Russ Kane Neil Long, and fellow audience members. Get you. And from northeastern United States, we dash across to southern Spain. Two-way family favorites. Southern Spain to Michael Verby. Shut up, Michael. Shut up. Do you want to read this? Because he's pissing me off.
Good afternoon, gents. From a still warm and sunny southern Spain.
Well, I never liked Michael. I didn't like him when he was a child. I don't like him now.
It's a nice day here in the UK. We're good.
I've known Michael since he was a baby and his dad. And I always say, it's just amazing we've re-hooked up on this radio station that his dad and my dad were best mates. Right. We are ready for our wonderful first guest. Our only guest, as a matter of fact. Oh! And look, it's the Queen of Theatre. Could you salute the Queen of Theatre? I know you've not met her, but that was a bit cash. Oh, I'll get a phone call now. I'll get a phone call about complaining. Anyway, there we go. Right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Stephanie. And that's how I'm pronouncing it, and that's all there is to it.
Hello, Stephanie.
That's it. Hello, how are you?
Good afternoon. We're good.
Well,
how are you?
Steph, how long you got? Let's be honest. How long have you got?
How long do you need?
Quite a while. Do you know you've got blinds behind you, but they look like bars. They look like security bars. So either you're very dangerous, or you're living in New Malden and trying to keep Neil out. One of the two.
No, neither. But I've noticed the teddy bear that's crept its way into the back.
No, I can't see that. Now you've pointed it out. We're all staring, but I couldn't see it before.
Yeah, sorry. Neil, I love your positivity about being bright in the UK. It really is nice, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I think we need to big up the UK a little bit, don't we, Stephanie?
Do we now? Do we?
Yeah, we do. We need to appreciate what we have.
Nicely stated.
This is great. We've been to northeastern United States. We've been to Houston,
Spain.
Where else? We've been to Spain, and now we are going to Mary G. Williams, who is in, I think it's Kentucky. I love this. This is my dream. Oh, shut up! No. Would you like to read this, Neil, as you obviously went to Georgia?
Mary G. Williams has to get in there. I've been to George Clooney's home, not the one at Lake C, but his parents' home here in Kentucky. Well, good for you.
Wowza. Yeah, it is Kentucky. A place I'd like to go to, as a matter of fact. Right. Stephanie Joy Daniels, tell us why you're here. Tell us all about yourself.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, good. Well, I am on a mission to change the narrative in the menopause. So I'm a menopause specialist, but I've got a little bit of menopause fatigue. I'm just a bit bored of talking about it.
Well, let's talk about something else.
Okay.
Let's talk about why I don't like houseplants. See, you got an indoor plant there. I'm not digging it. I don't like indoor plants.
Really?
Well, you wanted to change the subject. You wanted to change the subject, so I'm changing the subject.
Why does the narrative need to change, Stephanie Joy Daniels?
No, she's just bored with it.
I know,
she's just bored of talking about it.
Because I think that we're starting to talk about it, which is great. But there's still this element of unknown when we talk about the menopause. You know, it's still everyone's treading with care. Am I going to say the wrong thing? Do I still need to think about it? If I got hair thinning, swirling around my head, if I enter the menopause, fatigue, you know, all these really negative words. And actually, the menopause is a very liberating, empowering place to be.
You are, let me just tell you, Stephanie Joy Daniels, from your secure bunker, that you're the only person. Now, we've discussed menopause on the show a lot because 50% of our audience are women, and the other 50% men have to go through it with their wives, girlfriends, partners, whatever it might be. So it's
one way or another, it's going to affect pretty much 100% of the population.
No, you are the only person to say that it's liberating, because everybody else says it's a monumental pain in the ass. But
I know a lady that talks about thriving, and that's become her passion, her life's work, if you like, through the menopause. But I've never heard the word liberating used before. So I'm really interested in hearing it framed in this way, Stephanie. Why do you say that?
Because I was really scared of it. I went into a surgical menopause, and when I went into the surgical menopause, I'm going
to hold you there. What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Sorry, thank you. Do let me know if you don't know.
Trust me,
my mum had. I'm getting that impression, Russ. My mum had the BRCA gene. I'll kind of back up a little bit, which is spelt BRCA, and that's the gene that makes you more susceptible to getting ovarian or breast cancer. Yes. Unfortunately, she lost her battle with ovarian cancer. And before she did, we discussed getting tested for the gene. And when I got tested and it came back positive, I took preventative steps, so that I wouldn't, I wouldn't develop it. And one of those steps is to get what's called an oophorectomy, where you have your ovaries removed. And after your ovaries get removed, you smash into the menopause. You don't ease into it. And when I first found out I was going to smash into the menopause, I had these horrible words swirling around my head: hair thinning, weight gain, libido, the whole thing. Everything was very, very negative. And I was 37 at the time. And I started to think, wow, where am I? I was young. I was like, what planet am I on? And through overcoming the symptoms naturally, including sleep, which I can give you, in line with your bad sleep last night, I started enjoying it, and I started getting on top of my symptoms. So I went from a very low place to on top of the world, and felt liberated from it.
So clearly the mindset is victor or creator, not victim. That's the first thing. Because I think it is a massive perception. You've touched on something really big here, that it's almost a curse that people at best can manage or live with or cope with. But you're using a completely different language, saying you got on top of it and you actually enjoyed it. Now this, I've heard no one actually say that before. I've heard people say you can thrive through it. Never heard anyone say they enjoyed it. So first of all, what did
every
you do?
woman I know loathes it.
What did you do? And I'd love to know about your mindset as well, how you've arrived at this way of framing it.
So with my clients, I use, those elastic balls that used to get really mixed up, and so you'd have lots of elastic bands and they'd end up making this ball.
Yeah.
If you put it together, yes.
If you put it together, it
didn't happen in your spare drawer.
No, it just always landed on my desk. But I would also have that. If you look at this ball as a whole, you just think there is no way I can unpick all this. If you start to unpick one elastic band at a time, so you take an elastic band and you call it your mindset, as you just have. You take another one and you call it optimizing your sleep. Another one, optimizing your lifestyle, your movement. I don't call it exercise because I hate exercise. And suddenly you start to unpick all these things. You get to the core of what's happening. And when you get to the core of what's happening, you start to look at things very differently. Like, if I did that, I can achieve anything. And I got to the stage where, yes, I was enjoying life. I'd gone to a very, very dark place and I'd come back. And that is when I gave up my career in media to help other women. And I think that a lot of women, and I'm going to speak from my own experience here, hide behind the menopause. So they say, "Oh, I'm menopausal, I can't. I'm menopausal, I've got the Julie voice. Sorry, Julie's just.
The reason I have to read out captions, I'll explain to you, Stephanie. The reason I have to do it is this show is streamed to Deluxe Radio. They only hear us, they don't see us, but there are tens and tens of thousands of people tuned in.
And Julie Voice says, I also had the same surgery at 36. Best thing I ever did.
Boom. There you go.
Which seems to supports what you say, Stephanie. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of women hide behind the menopause and kind of shadow, behind it. When you take a closer look, these women who are blaming everything on the menopause are drinking every night because they're stressed. They've got really bad sleep routine. They're not optimizing their food or their movement. And the menopause takes the blame for it. Once you start digging deeper.
A little bit. I've got to speak up for the people that you're talking about. I think it's a little bit of a sweeping statement to say, they're all drinking every night. It's like, well, that's a bit condemnatory, I think.
But has that been your experience with the people that you talk to?
No, I love that you've pushed back, because there's going to be people there that are like, what is she talking about? I don't.
Yeah, people will say that. It's only fair that we ask, but I'm sure there's a really good qualifying statement to that. Go on.
No, I am a coach as well as a nutritional specialist. So I look at the nutrition side of things, but then the emotional side of things. And so if women don't know how to optimize certain parts of their life, then there will be a negative effect on it. And that will lead to bad sleep, bad outcomes. If they start,
I read recently just on the importance of sleep. It's just a chapter in a book, and the statistics of what happens if menopausal or not, if we don't get good sleep, it's absolutely, bloody dangerous, really.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
Yes.
But I interrupted you. Please carry on.
No, I think that was a really valid point. I don't want it to come across as a sweeping statement. I think that the menopause gets a bad rap a lot of the time. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think there are science-backed ways that we can optimize things like our sleep. And I'll give you my favorite tip. If you look outside very first thing in the morning when the sun is rising and you look up at the sky, the rays of the light kickstart your circadian rhythm. And so your hormones are much more leveled and well equipped to deal with your internal clock. If at nighttime you then respect the light, and I wear blue block glasses at nighttime, your hormones will start to ease off and get you ready. Are they blue block glasses? No shame.
These are, because I'm staring at the screen.
Amazing.
I'm staring at the screen all day, literally, unless I'm walking the dog. That's what I'm doing.
The only embarrassing thing is they don't go on quite level, so I have to do weird things with them. But apart from that, they're good at blocking blue light.
And that's what George Clooney said. He said, "You're not coming out to dinner with me. Get some decent glasses." He was embarrassed. I'm not letting it go, Neil. So, what were you doing in the media before we just to wind back for a second, because you threw that into the mix, and now I'm curious.
I worked at media owners, so I worked for things like Global Radio, which was GCAP back then.
Never heard of it. No, never heard of Ashley.
Yeah, I know. I didn't think you did.
No, never ever heard of Global.
And Bauer Media, and I was
never heard of them. They treated Neil Fox nicely. Jesus. Yeah, they treated him disgustingly. He's a very dear man, and gets a lot of stuff. And he's a very dear man to me, a very dear man to Neil, and he's a lovely, lovely guy. And Bauer Radio treated him like crap.
And an incredible broadcaster.
And is a great broadcaster and a great human being. And I will never forgive them for what they did to that guy, nor the people who brought the things. Anyway, we digress. I find it fascinating that what is interesting is, first of all, you had this at 36, 37, this operation, preventative. And there's Julie Voice out in Houston say, best thing I ever did. And I get that. And I can well understand how it's very scary. And I'm going through, I'm not going to go into details, but something where I'm faced with, I could have an operation to solve an issue. But I've been putting it off. I'll be perfectly blunt, and there'll be a time next year where I won't be around for a bit and dealing with it. It's a big decision, isn't it, Stephanie? When you're young. I mean, 36 is young, and you're thinking, I'm going to do this, and I hope it works. It's a big mental decision to come to, isn't it?
Yeah, you could look at it like that. I didn't. I'd seen Mum, struggling. So for me, it was quite an easy decision. I wasn't unwell. It was more preventative surgery. So I think I took her strength and took that with me. I knew that I would walk out the other end and I would walk away and reduce my chances. So it was quite an easy decision in that sense.
Just to be clear, to reduce your chances of getting ill, not reduce
getting ovarian cancer,
yes.
or breast cancer, exactly.
Yes.
And then when I landed on planet menopause and realised that I didn't want to be there anymore, and realised that there was an exit door, I wanted to help other women and empower them to enjoy this time. And that was at exactly the same time that the media started talking about the menopause. So it was kind of a divine, I was in the right place at the right time.
But it was meant to be.
Idea that time
it was meant to be, Stephanie.
So let's hear about it then. How did you do it? What are the protocols here? Starting with good sleep, I guess.
Yeah, so good sleep. So there's a great podcast by Huberman. It's called the Huberman Lab, and he talks about sleep and getting out first thing in the morning, and then winding down late at night. And then you have to look at yourself. There is not a one size fits all here. So you have to, for example, caffeine. We all metabolize caffeine very differently. I can only have 1 cup of coffee a day before 12. Otherwise it affects my sleep. And I cherish that coffee. And I love coffee, but coffee doesn't love me. And so I now know.
What happens when you have coffee?
Well, my energy levels spike. I shake. I get,
But you could have decaf, right?
You can, but
brown water.
It's not coffee.
It's just
I'd rather have herbal tea. So I don't have. I have my 1 coffee a day, and I don't have it on an empty stomach. Then it's looking at things like protein, healthy fats, and complex carbs. So it's really taking your food back to the most natural state that it was grown in.
Yep.
And that's what our body needs.
I'm so agreeing with you, Stephanie. I've just started intermittent fasting a couple of weeks ago, and I'm veering towards the carnivore diet now. And totally with you. And we've got to talk about it. Maybe if that's one of your areas, come back. I know that's not why you're here, but it's totally counterintuitive to everything the food industry has been preaching to us for years. And I think they're wrong. I think they're wrong.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Conclusion. Thank you.
There's more and more research.
I'm a recent convert to this, but it's a big side. We'll talk about it another time.
More and more research.
No, actually, this is fundamental to everything. This is the core of everything. There's more and more research about how high-fat diets, not high-fat, high-carb, or not low-fat, but almost like the keto diet. But I don't stick to the keto diet.
Well, it's work. I got to say, Stephanie, it's work. So pal of mine started intermittent fasting, and suddenly after a few weeks, I said, "Jesus, Colin, you look. What the hell's going on here? You look great." And he said, "Well, you know what I'm like. I've got no willpower. Hello." And he said, "But I'm doing this intermittent fasting." And I went, "You?" And he went, "Yeah." He looks fantastic. He's lost, in no time, 10 kilograms. Well, I've already lost 5 pounds in like under 2 weeks. I'm really, really. It's very easy to do. I don't have a problem with it at all.
So, what's your window, Russ?
I don't eat after. Well, I won't be able to do this on Saturday because I'm out. But I don't eat after 7 o'clock, which is a bit of a pain because the evening then stretches on like the Gobi Desert. But I don't eat after 7 o'clock, and I don't have anything before earliest 11.
So just to be clear, Stephanie, fats are necessary. We would die without the good fats, obviously, but it's the right fats. It's the right fats, isn't it?
Yeah. I love your questions, Neil. Not that I don't love yours, Russ, but I do.
No, you love Neil. That's because you think he knows George Clooney. It was it's one of my fantasies.
It's my smoldering good looks and engaging personality. I know.
It is.
So,
Amen. 60%.
And he's safe.
No,
he's much safer.
So we're talking omega-3s? Is that what we're talking here?
No. Oh, God. Right. Hang on. Right.
What?
See if I'm right. Okay. The way that we're told it's got to have low fat this, low fat that. If you're getting meat, don't have the fat in it. You know, all of
No,
this sort of
that
stuff.
wasn't the
Wrong.
bad guy. It's
It's
sugar.
wrong. No.
It's completely
Well,
wrong.
cut out sugar. Sugar's crap. That you should never have sugar. When my wife had cancer, sugar was a big issue.
Sugar feeds
but
it.
that's another show, another topic.
Yeah,
but
sugar feeds it.
cut
Doesn't
out all
cause
this
it, it feeds it.
refined stuff. Don't have fast food. Obviously, it's garbage. Majority of it. You can say what you like. Cut out carbs. Cut out carbs, and then you can kind of eat as much as you like.
Well, carbs are sugar. Carbs
Yeah,
metabolize
they're
sugar.
just useless for you. They're
and
just
in terms
useless
of your
for you.
omega-3 is right, and our brain is made up of 60% fat. If we are not feeding it the good, healthy fats, I'm talking things like avocado, nuts, seeds, the omega-3s, like you say, wild-caught salmon, mackerel, avocado,
Oily fish, in
oily
other
fish,
words,
basically the smash.
oily fish.
Oily fish, yeah.
For example.
You're not feeding your brain, and you're gonna have things like brain fog, and you're gonna forget things. If you optimize and you feed it well, and you feed it with the food that it needs, your brain is gonna thrive. So I take my supplement. I recommend Wiley's Finest supplement, which is the omega-3. It's the purest form of the omega, and I take that, and that feeds my brain. We were not brought up like that. We were brought up with low fat.
I think they've been wrong. I'm fascinated we've got into this, but I think they're wrong. And I think they've been preaching to us incorrectly.
Who's wrong? About the people, that say fat is bad.
The so-called health experts who are never health experts. Because I'm with Jordan Peterson on this. I think half of them don't know what the hell they're talking about, and half of them are scam artists. When our ancestors, what did they do? They moved from place to place. They saw a buffalo, whatever it was, killed it, ate it from snout to tail, moved on. That's what we were designed to do. The fact that we're terribly clever and we're talking now on computers and we've got microphones and can land on Mars hasn't changed who we are as a species.
If we get time, I agree. At the end of the program, I'll tell you the history of why fat was considered to be bad and how sugar was off the hook for so many years. It's really interesting to about 3 minutes.
Ansel Keys, isn't it? It's
Ansel Keys, the K rations. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. It's him. And the other thing I really practice that comes into, and Asa, I really would like to answer that question: how's menopause affected your relationships? I think that's really key. And I will come back to that. But I want to say about the fasting. I am a trained fasting specialist. And I got trained by a lady called Cynthia Thurlow, who did a TED talk on it. And she's had something like 10 million views or something. So she was my mentor with this. Intermittent fasting, when it's done right, balances our hormones and leaves us feeling our best. When fasting is done wrong, it can lead to things like binging and fatigue. So I'm very careful about my fasting message. You have to fast with what's right to your body. So Neil, that might mean for you 12 hours to begin with. And then Russ, that might mean for you can go up to the 16 hours. I never go beyond.
I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. So I thought, I launched myself into this. I thought, well, if Colin can do it, who has less willpower than I did, I can do this. And so I thought, 16 hours. So you've got an 8-hour window and a 16-hour fasting every day.
So we've got so we've done fats and fasting.
Yep, fats, fasting, sleep, and movement.
Okay, proteins.
Proteins are great at stabilizing blood sugar. So I will have a protein to start my day, and I'll have protein at the beginning, in the middle of the day. So I don't get that afternoon slump. Sometimes I do. I'm not sitting here as perfect, keeping my hormones in check is a daily daily thing, But once you kind of realize that actually I've got an exam coming up, I'm really stressed, I need to start taking adaptogens, which are calming supplements, then you get the balance right. So the protein is brilliant at stabilizing your blood sugar so that you don't get that spike and then you don't get that drop. The fats are good at feeding our brain and our cells and everybody.
And that's so important, isn't it? Because if we're on that blood sugar roller coaster,
it's awful.
Then it will, number one, strain our pancreas and possibly lead to diabetes. And number two, this is fascinating, what I learned. Apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong here, when your blood sugar spikes, it's a stress response. Stress No, sorry. When your blood sugar's up and down, I beg your pardon. It will be obviously a lot of insulin going into the body, and insulin stores fat. Insulin
Yes,
is
it
a fat
does.
storage
Yes,
hormone.
it does.
That's right.
Right. So if you're absolutely right. So if you're feeding your body constantly, as we're taught in the Western diet, especially with all this food at our fingertips, we're constantly digesting our food. When we rest our body, which is what happens with intermittent fasting, you rest your body, you stop giving the food to your body can clean up. It's called the migrating motor complex. So your body cleans up. It's called the MMC and MMC, migrating motor complex. So your body cleans up and it goes into what's called autophagy. And so you start digesting all the food that you've eaten, and then you start using that stored fat. If you got a bin and you keep putting rubbish in, eventually that rubbish has nowhere to go and it will overflow. And that's what happens with the food and the insulin and the stored fat.
And your liver as well.
If you put the rubbish in, yes, it puts a strain on your liver. If you put the rubbish in the bin and then you empty the bin, which is the equivalent of the migrating motor complex,
of the autophagy,
if you put a clean bag in it, you start again and you're efficient with your food.
That makes sense. I heard a similar thing in sort of layman's terms. It was basically the liver going into not being constant, not doing the everyday stuff. So it had time to do like a deep clean, if you like.
Yeah, exactly. It's fascinating. And actually, we don't digress because this is so crucial for women in the menopause. This is so crucial for everybody.
Absolutely right. But
But this sounds like good health advice for everyone, let alone menopause.
You've mentioned the word stress, and research has proved, without doubt, that when you're in a state of constant stress, things happen internally to you, and you will put on weight.
Yeah, it's the insulin thing.
It sounds ridiculous. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's true.
No, it's not. It's not.
True.
Being stressed can make you put on weight, and this is my guess. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's something to do with the constant cortisol. And
correct.
That gets,
absolutely
and that gets
spot on,
insulin
Neil.
Put in, and then of course insulin is a fat storage hormone. If that's
because
wrong,
it's Neil uses the phrase a lot, fight or flight, and because you're in stress, and you go, I'm stressed about whatever it might be. Your body is in this constant state, and it's not even digesting the food. It's the way that it changes it and breaks it down, and it all goes out the window.
That fight or flight state is meant to be used for very, very short bursts, not a constant underlying hum. I mean, that's, put it in modern day terms. If someone jumps out at you with a knife and tries to mug you, you need fight or flight. You need that shot of chemicals. Yeah. But to go into that state several times a day because the boss chews you out or you have a row with someone and it's just constantly, it's not good. It is not good.
Amen. And the best tip I can give you for that is that your shoulders are not earrings. So you start with your shoulders and you start relaxing your shoulders, and then the rest
with your legs slightly.
And I just noticed I was
tall. No. Rule number one. Stephanie's not making light of this. Stephanie, I didn't realize we would be so ad idem on this. But you stand tall, shoulders back, head up. Immediately, your posture is saying a lot. Number one, it's saying a lot to the outside world. It's not saying, "Oh, Neil, I hope I'm doing all right." Bollocks to that. This is who I am. This is it. Your whole demeanor changes the moment your posture changes.
And your whole internal state changes too. That's the power moves that we've talked about before. I'll do them again before the end of the show. Remind me.
Also, it affects you, and I'm sure Stephanie will agree. It affects you up here. You come into like a meeting, and we're all like, hello, Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining. What the hell's she going to think? No. You don't, and you don't want that in any situation. You don't want a high-low situation. In other words, somebody immediately has control of you because you walked in all like that. You walk in like this, boom. We're on a level playing field here.
You're absolutely right, Russ. And there's 3 power moves you can do to change your internal state, exactly like you've described. And there's a TED talk on it by Amy Cuddy.
Amy Cuddy, my favourite. I was just thinking that. How many? She must have had millions of views.
We are on the same page, Stephanie.
She followed me on Instagram, and that was my.
Everybody listening and watching all over the world, there's something I would like to say. If you go on, and I don't watch TV, what I do is I put the YouTube on my TV and I try and educate myself. Some of it's just bullshit. I like WWE and, Hulk Hogan and The Rock. And I also like to watch people, and it's very educational. But you're all smart you're all bright, you've all of a certain age, you've all lived. So you have the innate filter to say, this is a scam artist, or this is utter bullshit, or they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And then you come across stuff and you think, I get this. This makes sense. And there's so many brilliant people out there. There's also a lot of scammers, and there's a lot of flim-flam and snake oil salesmen. Of course they are, because health is a multi-billion, gazillion industry. But there's so much good sense. Listen to Jordan Peterson. Listen to Jordan Peterson's. Listen to Jordan Peterson's. My God, listen to Jordan Peterson's daughter, Michaela. Listen to people like that. There's some extraordinary people, and they think, yes,
the best health tips tend to be super simple ones, and yes, there's an awful lot of science behind them, but they've been put in a way which the masses can understand. But that doesn't mean to say they're non-scientific. And all the stuff you've talked about, Stephanie, is absolutely true. But it's never really that complicated, is it? It's all fairly doable stuff, right?
Can I just say
how
something?
liberating is that? That's
it is liberating.
Exactly, and cheap as well. A lot of it's really cheap.
There's nothing wrong, because I was a corporate writer for many, many, many years. I had to be able to communicate to an audience very complicated stuff, right? Stuff that I didn't understand, but if I didn't understand it, they wouldn't. So you have to break it down. There is nothing wrong in taking very complex concepts and ideas and making them completely palatable to the average person. It's not talking down to people. It's being able to communicate to people, and that is so important. I mean, we do that here.
I completely agree.
We handle the most sensitive of issues, menopause, for example, and suicide prevention, etc. We don't do it in a highfalutin way.
So we've got your proteins, we've got your good fats. We've got our carbs we didn't talk about. There's carbs and carbs, isn't there?
Yeah. So you've got simple carbs, which are the processed carbs, which we want to avoid.
You don't want them.
As much as possible. And then we've got the complex carbs. So things like your quinoa, your butternut squash, your sweet potato over your bread and pasta.
Leafy greens.
We've also got leafy greens come into your fibre. Leafy greens. Green leafy veg is very vital. It's very vital for detoxing. So green leafy veg comes into fiber. So you've got your omega-3, so your healthy fats. You've got your protein, which good quality protein, which stabilizes your blood sugar. You've got your complex carbs, and you've got your fiber, which is going to keep everything moving. You've also got this one key point about your mindset. It is progress over perfection.
Yeah.
So as long as I made a little bit of progress each week, that was enough for me. And slowly but surely, the old narrative melted away and was replaced with a healthier version that impacted both my health and my hormones.
And you basically reinvented yourself almost, didn't you? You literally became what you wanted to become. You demonstrated the power that we've all got to change. People think what I'm trying to say is people think they're victims of massive uncontrollable forces. And people like yourself and the other lady I know who teaches people how to thrive through menopause, and many other wonderful people, they take complete responsibility for their experience of life. They don't go into that victim mindset. And if there's not an answer, they bloody will find one. I know people that have cured themselves from Parkinson's disease, and I'm not lying, and I will share the story at some point. He's well known. Just by taking complete responsibility and but the good thing about responsibility, you're not a victim anymore. You know the solution because you have the power to change. You have the power, and what you need to do that is available to you. I didn't put that terribly well, but I hope you know what I mean by that.
You did, and maybe I should have said that rather than hiding behind the menopause. Because you have a choice, exactly that. You optimize.
People think they don't have one. You mentioned a big word like menopause or even cancer. There's an awful lot. There's an awful lot we can do. Here's a shocker for you. Do you know how much nutritional training the average doctor has?
Oh, I would imagine 2 days.
7% of their whole of their. I would 7%.
Say. Yeah. I heard it was half a day.
Half a day, yeah.
But don't forget, they're rolling out the same things. Oh, go on a diet, do this, do that. And it's like, well, hang on. It's clearly not working. The reason it's clearly not working, certainly in America, where it's ridiculous, we were designed really to have one big meal a day. It's kind of it. That was it. Yeah. America, you're going to have 3 whacking great meals a day, full of
the
unrefined
rest.
sugars, right?
Yeah.
And in between those huge meals, which they don't need, and we're guilty of it here because when America sneezes, we catch a cold, as you know, right? In between, people are snacking, mainly on garbage. That's what they do. That's why there's an obesity crisis, not helped by the fact that the fast foods are advertised endlessly.
And also what they
on
did in
TV.
America was remove the fructose from everything and use it to sweeten everything, the high fructose corn
High
syrup.
fructose corn syrup. They have this tendency, which is a pill for an ill. So you've got a headache and they give you a pill. But what you're doing is you're suppressing that communication that your body is giving you. Your body's saying to you, I've got a headache. And you're silencing it with the pills rather than saying, okay, what's going on here? Why have I got this headache?
Exactly. But basically what you're talking about is the whole Western medicine model where they treat symptoms, not the cause. And if you treat the cause, you won't have any symptoms to treat. So rather than crushing symptoms, which just stacks one on another, we need to work more on a much more holistic perspective. Exactly what you're saying. Back to the basics. Each person's an individual. Believe that you have the resources and can change, and eliminate the cause. Right?
Yeah. Can we answer the question of Asa, who asked about the relationship?
Asa Don Brown over in northeastern United States. How is menopause affected with an A, Asa? Oh, American Canadians, what are they like? Affected with an A, Jesus. Once a copywriter, always a copywriter. Your relationships.
I took the stand that I was going to lead by example because I've always come up with great ideas, or what I thought were great ideas, and people were like, oh, another idea. And I think with this, I really led by example rather than preaching and telling people, or my friends, you have to do this. Or my husband, especially, who definitely doesn't want to be preached to. I would do it myself, and then I would lead by example. In terms of my relationship with my husband, it shifted slightly. It's gone. I had to educate him on the menopause and be respectful that it's not just my world that we're living in. So I had to manage my own symptoms, and I had to manage almost taking into account and considering him and his feelings. So we have it hard in that sense, women.
We feel useless. We do feel absolutely useless. And we also think that we're walking through a minefield because you're going to say something. Oh, it's going to be taken the wrong way, or it's crass, or you haven't been sensitive enough, and all these. And I'm not a sort of new age guy. I don't care. But you do feel stupid because you're not going through it. You're getting the backlash of it, but you're not going. Can I put this up now, Stephanie? Forgive me. It's going to hide you for a minute, but this is important stuff. It's from an amazing man called Paul Claridge, who has had one hell of a life, not just his battle with cancer, but with everything that he's gone through. And would you be so kind, Neil, as to read this? I'd appreciate it.
By all means, Paul Claridge. Because of my ileostomy, I sometimes have to fast to get my bowel under control. However, because I have an ileostomy, my body doesn't absorb enough nutrients and normal amounts of food and liquids. So to get enough nutrition, I need to eat and drink much more than others. For me, it's a catch-22.
And Paul Claridge, when I first met him, was quite a Falstaffian figure, and he's lost a minimum of half. I didn't realise it was the same guy. I hadn't seen him since he got ill, and he's half the size, incredibly slim. It was extraordinary, and he's so brave, and he's so positive, and he's come through so much, and I admire him enormously. That's what I'm going to say. I admire him enormously.
Yeah, that's so moving. That is so moving, and my heart goes out to him. There are nutrients that you can take sublingually, so they go straight into the bloodstream. So I would explore that. I would go into a local health food, or go even to the GP or see a nutritionist, and just see about getting those nutrients sublingually, just so you can feel more. I imagine your energy levels are all over the place, and so you can look at things like iron and B12 and putting them under the tongue, so they bypass the digestive system and just go straight into your bloodstream.
Very briefly, Stephanie.
Yeah, that does exist.
Electrolytes, good thing, bad thing? Should we have them? Put salt in our water? What's the deal there? Right.
So salt is, you have to be so careful with salt because it's strict and it's so refined. So the original, I have a salt
Himalayan.
now. Himalayan is good. I don't know about that, how much iodine it has. So there's a salt called Redmond's salt. I love Redmond's salt. Look, this is a problem with going on camera. You just see yourself. And
you look marvellous. Am I
thank
allowed to
you.
say
Sorry.
that? Do I end up
Yes,
on the
yes,
front page of
yes.
the Daily Mail? Not that I
No,
care.
sorry.
But I'm just going to say it anyway. There you go.
No, thank you. So you, oh my God, Neil, that threw me. What were we saying? Pink
Well,
salt.
I was asking the question. I was
Thank
asking
you,
the
thank you.
question,
Salt,
and you were saying yes, you have
electrolytes.
to be very careful with salt. Please
Yes.
explain.
So well, it's refined and it's stripped of all its goodness. So yes, Himalayan salt is more natural than table salt, but I think there's very few and far between salts that actually replenish. When we fast, we have to stay hydrated. So in our Jewish religion, we have something called Yom Kippur, which is a dry fast. I never dry fast. But I will always drink plenty of fluids. I will drink unflavored herbal tea because the flavor in the tea spikes your blood sugar. So I will have a plain tea, a herbal tea and water to replenish all the fluids that we're losing. The salts are really key. Magnesium is absolutely vital for muscle health and for fatigue as well, actually. So magnesium in your feeding window is worth it. But I will sometimes, if I'm very dehydrated, I will put a little bit of Redmond salt in my water and I will have that in my fast.
This is Ian's will answer your question in a second, Ian, or rather Stephanie will. And it's this, salt retains water, right? As Stephanie has said, you need to be so careful. I'm in a bit of the horns of a dilemma because I'm going slightly more carnivore, bit of a not total carnivore diet, not going to happen, but more. And of course, all of those, when I've done the research, says you've got to add salt. You've really got to add salt to that meat, which I'm doing. So, okay, I'm still here. Now, what about, does it retain water and are multivitamins worth it?
So the wrong salt will retain water. And if you've got any problems with blood pressure or anything like that, you need to go and speak to your GP or your health provider before you undertake anything like this. You must always work with a professional. So that's what I would say about that. I'm not even going to advise on that because that's why you want to get the best quality salt. In terms of multivits, rather than looking at the front where it says contains vitamin D, will help health, hair and skin, look at the back, look at the ingredients and then look at what's called the excipients, which is the additives that people add to it. So one of my clients recently said, oh, I'm taking this multivit from XX supermarket because it helps with my hair. I looked in the ingredients and I did my research and they had added talcum powder to the additive. And that talcum powder was interacting negatively with a medication that she was on. So are multivitamins worth it? Well, why do you want to take a multivitamin? Because your hair is bad. Actually, stress is really good for hair thinning. So suddenly you don't need to spend any money. You just drop your shoulders because they're not earrings. And if you want to take it just for general well-being, look at the back of the packet, see what's being added.
Now, the reason I'm doing this is that I do another show with the great Oliver Mammon called the ABC of CBD. All about CBD and the CBD industry. We're coming up to our 100th edition. To be honest with you, when it was presented to me, I thought it would last 4 shows, if that. 100 editions. It's been nominated for awards in America. I'm so excited for him and for us. And one of our guests was 4-5. Was the guy who was a professional rugby player. And what he was saying shifted me a lot. And it's what Stephanie is saying, our guest today, is that if you go into Boots, Tesco's, whatever it is, could be, Holland and Barrett, doesn't matter. It says it's going to do absolutely everything, but it's the quality. Stephanie, please jump in anytime. It's the quality of the ingredients, and you might only be getting a tiny little bit of
exactly.
What it said.
And also the ability to absorb it as well.
So I went over. I've got no skin in the game. I don't make any money from these people, so I'm happy to support them. I'm doing this 4-5. This is biotic, right? 10, 15 billion live, whatever it is. And life and this is vitamin C. Now there's a million vitamin C things you can get. What's the quality of contained in that capsule? Possibly not great. So that's what I've gone to. And as I said, look, I'm not plugging the buy it, don't buy it. Makes no difference to me. I've got no shares in the company that I don't get a discount. So what I'm saying is Stephanie is so on point with this.
Can I ask can I ask you a couple of things, Stephanie? Did you say first of all that you are a nutritionist as well?
Yeah, nutritional specialist. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I was going to mention someone else, but I won't because that's unfair to you because this is your forum at the moment. But there's someone I know who I very, very, very much trust on the nutrition list front. And what do you think about this? Ionic trace minerals. Is this the kind of bioavailable thing that maybe Paul should look at?
I think Paul needs to go and speak to a specialist. I don't think that I want to be recommended anything to Paul. I just think that, I just think sublingually, because of the way that it's absorbed, might be beneficial to him.
It just so happens today I was sorting out my supplements and you've kept to come on. So I'm not normally surrounded by supplements, but today I actually am.
He is.
Look at this. Got them all here.
But one of the listeners, Magazine World, one of the listeners just said that they eat poorly. So don't forget the bleeding obvious. I eat poorly. There you go, Ian. Don't forget the obvious. Start with the basics. You're looking at the supplements. It's like building a room and working on the photo frames before you build the foundations. So build the foundations. Get those, that progress over perfection. Just keep working on those areas that need working on. Keep soul searching. Keep making improvements. Keep eating back to how the food was grown initially. Look at the chips versus the potato. Which one is your body going to identify and notice more? Or what's the word I'm looking for? Which one of those two is your body going to take in more? And you know the answer. We all do.
One of the things, of course, with any of this is it does get very boring. I don't mean no conversation. I mean dieting can get very boring. You have to be disciplined. You have to want it to succeed, right? And the whole notion of cheating ruins it. But I think, as with everything in life, you have to treat yourself. So if you have a slight wobble, it is not the end of the world. The world will still continue to spin. Politicians will be as stupid as they always were. Yeah. It's, don't beat yourself up about it. It's
exactly. The stress will hurt you more than not, Yeah.
Dave, my eyesight today, Jesus. Dana. Oh, is it Dano? Book him. I take a drink called Y Food. It's very good. You're a horse racing fan, by the way. You can see horse racing as your avatar. I take a drink called Y Food. It's very good. Not heard of it myself.
So the whole menopause experience can be enjoyable.
Right. Full circle. Thank you.
Welcome.
Totally. That's great. They absolutely can be.
I tell you what, Neil, next time I'm out to dinner with some of my friends who are female, and they get out the fan from their handbag and they're sitting there and their face looks like Niagara Falls, and they go, I'll be all right in a minute. Please come and say, hey, by the way, the menopause can be enjoyable. Good luck with my pals, and tell me what branch of A&E you'd like me to visit you in. Trust me.
But here's not lived experience. Neil hasn't been through the menopause and isn't thriving. I have been through the menopause and I'm thriving.
Yeah.
And so it's different coming from Neil versus coming from me.
But a lot of it is up here as well. There's obviously
I think I love the way you use the word thriving. It's almost like opening up a new possibility to us. And I'm a great believer that if one person's achieved something, no matter what it is, 4-minute mile for a start, or anything at all in human achievement, that possibility then becomes available to all of us. And this is what Russ says, and I think he's right, because it kind of has to happen in your mind first. I was reading about it this morning, the reticular activation system.
The RAS, the RAS.
Yeah, RAS, your RAS, as my friends like.
Whoa, I know, you've lost me now.
And if anyone's read anything about law of attraction or manifesting or any of that.
Oh, right. Is that what it is? RAS?
Kind of. I'll explain it.
The reticular activation system is a very kind of scientific way of explaining that. Basically, it basically looks for what you program into it. So if you think the world's a horrible place, that's all you'll see. If you think, if you buy a new red car, you see it everywhere. If you buy a new dress, which I like to do on some weekends. That's my business. That was a joke. You see it everywhere, and it can be programmed with anything, literally anything. I'll finish today with I'll tell you what, if you'd like to explain the RAS, and I'll finish today with an incredible RAS story. And it also sounds a bit rude, and I'm very childish.
Are you a Rastafarian? See what I did there? Moving on.
I'll start talking about your RAS.
I think it's also. I think you summed it up perfectly. You see the world in the way that you want to see it, but I also think that a lot of that, and the way that we see things is determined by our past experience, and we almost don't need it anymore. So it's not serving us. So if you think that you always will be fat, you will always look at sweets and think, I want you, and you will convince yourself that that's, you'll look at things very differently to someone who's at peace with their weight and just doesn't need it, and they won't be bothered by things. If you think that you're a victim in a relationship and that you're always picked on because that's what happened to you as a kid, every relationship that reinforces that, you'll tell yourself, see, I am a victim. Once you realize that you don't need it.
It's a question of past experiences form our beliefs, and then we play out our beliefs, don't we? Until
exactly
something
that.
happens. We were talking about this on the last show. Until something happens, we either some sort of awakening or a serious illness or something, which causes us to really look at the way we look at life itself.
Yes, and change our RAS and change
our
RAS.
When you've had lousy things in your past experience, learn from them. For God's sake. Oh, I didn't really. Ian just popped up with this, but past experiences are valid. They are
massively valid. Absolutely.
They're very valid because they give you a baseline of what might work and what might not work.
Yes.
They give you a baseline of who the hell to avoid. Seriously.
Yes.
What business relationship? No, I'm being serious.
Yeah, I know. I'm laughing.
What social relationships? What romantic relationships? What personal relationships to avoid? If it didn't, Einstein said, and we say this so often, that Einstein said, the very definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. You will get exactly the same result. Don't keep doing the same thing. It's not going to work.
Can we talk a bit about programming your RAS, Stephanie?
Oh, I just think the soul searching, I think that's when you can work with a coach and realize what is serving you and what is not. And that's why I trained as a coach as well, because I think that we can look at things a certain way and then we can reframe them. And once we reframe them and we realize that actually there is a different element to this, again, it's another liberation, another way to set yourself free, to realize that you're not the victim if that's your narrative. Or that you don't always need a certain thing if that's your narrative.
And more importantly, I think you've hit on an important nuance here. It's not about changing the world. It's about changing the way we see the world, knowing that the world is because, in part at least, or maybe all, depend on the way we see it. We see it.
Absolutely.
We create the world that we see. And knowing that we're doing that and then having a system to change that is a pretty high level of awareness, rather than looking at something and going, I'm a victim of that. Because if that's the way you see it, that's the way it'll be for you. All truths are true, if you like.
Totally. And just to finish, I think that with relationships, you can tell yourselves things over and over. You speak to people, everyone's annoying you. That one's annoying me. That one's annoying me. Everyone is trying their best. Everyone is trying their best with what they have and what they know. And once you realize that, it's a very freeing thing to realize that actually they might all be annoying me, but they are trying their best with what they have.
Stephanie, that is also, and one, they're doing their best for whatever it is. But two, that doesn't mean you have to hang around with them.
Amen.
You really don't choose. This is something I have believed, and I only saw it last night. And I thought, wait a minute, I've been saying this for years. Jordan Peterson, choose your friends very, very carefully. I call them mood hoovers. There are some people you can be in a great mood. They come in a room, they could suck the joy out of the second coming. I mean, it's just hopeless. Don't be near them. They've got nothing to add to you. Surround yourself with people. Most important, surround yourself with people not who can do things for you, but who believe in you, who make you feel better. Don't try and do what some people do. I'll get hold of Neil because he knows a lot of. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone who would believe in you as a person.
I can do that as well. I'm very useful like that.
Yeah, but you throw nice parties. So
I heard something. Really lovely that day. Be friends with people who will speak well about you behind your back.
No,
There's
Damn
the kind
right.
of people
Damn
that
straight. Yeah.
Stephanie, where can people learn more about your work? Where if they want to, they think, my God, this woman's amazing. I need to know about this. I need to find her. I need some of her coaching. Where's your cyber home, Stephanie? Give it a shameless plug.
You're very sweet. I'd probably say LinkedIn, because Instagram is life begins at menopause with underscores in between each one. So life underscore begins underscore
And
at
what's on
underscore
LinkedIn?
menopause.
How they
And
find you
LinkedIn
there?
is just Stephanie Joy Daniels. That's probably
Okay.
my best. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With an F.
Right.
With an F.
With an F, yes, as
Yeah.
appears on screen. So that's what you want. Go on to LinkedIn. You'll find Stephanie Joy Daniels there. I've just realized something. You know, you were talking about Yom Kippur, etc.
Yes.
And amazingly, what I've just seen behind you between the couch and the wall is the Afikoman. That's where you hid it.
Where's
All right. Okay, moving on. It's a little gag. I'll just
Sorry.
That's all right, Stephanie. It's been great. I'd love you to come back, because there's so much more that we can talk about.
I would love to come and
So
speak
much
to
more
you
to chat about.
guys.
All right,
Honestly.
bless you.
Yeah.
What I love on this show is when we get people who are living examples of the things that we talk about,
That we care
we can
about.
sit there and lament,
That's
oh, this is so bad and that is so bad, and then suddenly a leading light like yourself comes on and goes, actually, it doesn't have to be bad, and here's how. And you know, if it gives people hope that the future can be brighter, if anyone's watching this video,
if you've changed one person, that's it. You know, you can't change the whole
Amazing.
world.
you could be
but
watching
just us.
live, you might
you
be feeling
change one
desperate
person,
and
it's all
Google
worth it,
something
isn't it?
and this video comes up and it could send you in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
But there's so much skepticism. It needs people who are walking their talk to actually go, actually, no, I've done it and I've left a trail of crumbs for you to follow me, as it were.
Yes, amazing. All right, thank you
care.
so much, guys. You
Take care.
too.
We
I'll
will
speak to
see
you soon.
probably next year, but I mean early next year, because we're booked up.
Been lovely, Stephanie.
Take care.
All the best.
Bye-bye. Bye. Charming, utterly charming, smart, productive, creative, helpful, practical.
I know I am. And our guest was quite good too.
I was talking about you, obviously.
Oh, thanks.
Duh.
So, do you want to finish with me showing you those three power
Yes,
moves?
I'd love that. Go ahead.
I think I've shown them before. We can do it again. Now, there's a
do-
TED talk by Amy Cuddy on this.
Yes, famous
right.
Lady Cuddy. Yeah, right.
And also, if you want to learn more about what we're talking about the RAS, obviously you can coach with Stephanie, or you can look at this book, which is The Answer by Alan and Barbara Pease. Okay?
Alan and Barbara Pease.
They're Australian psychologists, and they're absolutely brilliant. And some of the challenges they've overcome in their life using this reticular activation system, it's not small things, like being told you never have children again and starting a new family because you've had cancer of those bits. I don't know if it was prostate or testicular, but he was told he couldn't have children, and that turned out not to be true. And that's all done through the methods they talk about in this book, and it is quite extraordinary. So the power moves. So to change how you feel in a minute and a bit, it's 45 seconds of this. Like Stephanie said, shoulders aren't earrings, shoulders down, puff your chest out, hands on your hips like Wonder Woman. I might have to stand, actually, so I'm going to move this right back.
Oh, we can see the magnificent that is Neil Long. God, he tucks his t-shirts into his jeans. What is he on Miami Vice?
There you go. Chest out. 45 seconds of that. And then 45 seconds, and I would guess this come from yoga, but I give it a name, Superstar DJ. 45 seconds of this.
The Alex Van Buren when he's in a stadium.
Robert Van Buren. And he's a clockmaker, but he should be a DJ. 45 seconds of that. And then 45 seconds.
Hang on. Whoa. Is my head up or down? Is my head straight or is it looking
up, like you're saluting the sun.
Oh, okay. I'm doing it.
Try it after the show. 45 seconds Wonder Woman, 45 seconds of that, and 45 seconds of this move. But before we do this, some people use this move to demean people. You've probably seen people do this in meetings if they think they're self-important. Try and put that aside. This is about how this makes you feel. It's not about demeaning other people or being demeaned yourself. But you basically put your hands behind your head and put your feet up on something, like something higher. Something about this.
We've talked about that before. I hate that. move.
Yeah.
Let's end with this very quickly.
In a demeaning way.
I can just sneak this in 20 seconds. This is so cheeky from Paul. So, Russ, is MRS, Men's Radio Station, prepared for the influx of soon-to-be ex-BBC local radio staff, either looking for a job or advice? Paul, it's funny you should say that. I had a meeting before this show on Zoom, about that very subject.
Oh,
Anyway,
you were on that meeting too.
What?
You were on that meeting too. Someone we both know was on there.
Something
as well.
I want to talk to you about. Right, that's it. We're out of time, baby. Neil will be back, God willing, on Monday. I will be
What a
back.
show!
It was a hell of a show. She was a great guest. Take care, everybody. See you Friday, 12 o'clock. Until then, stay out of trouble, gang. Not try.